Remember this buy-to-let, which I showed you last year? Well, almost 9 months after completing on the purchase, I've finally finished the refinance and got the money out of the property, and I'm ready to move on to my next project. And in this video, I wanted to walk you through the full process, start to finish, and include all of the numbers. Starting at the very beginning, where did I purchase this property? Well, this property was purchased direct with the owner. You see, my sourcing business does a reasonably large amount of marketing, large amount of direct to vendor communication, and also outreach. And using different types of ads and letters, I'm able to sometimes attract owners looking to sell. And interestingly enough, this particular owner was someone that I contacted quite some time ago now, and this is the second property that I've purchased from him. Now, at the time of negotiations, the property was rented out, and unfortunately, conditions weren't really up to date, and therefore the tenants weren't actually paying the market rent. I saw an opportunity to purchase a property in need of refurbishment and maintenance, and with a chance to uplift the value. So I made the owner an offer, we agreed, and off we went. Now, moving on to the refurb on this property, this refurb was quite a large one and actually included the following parts. To start with, we had the strip out, which was a combination of back to brick in some of the rooms, and in many of the rooms we actually managed to retain what was there and skim over the top. We did a full rewire and new consumer unit. We had new heating, plumbing and radiators throughout, new flat roof over the kitchen and bathroom, removed the old skylight which was on the flat roof, as the house is actually already bright, and I've always found that skylights tend to be potential risk for leaks, especially when they're on flat roofs. We had a new kitchen, and the kitchen was from DIY Kitchens, great quality kitchen and units from there. And I went for the concrete effect Cento range, and we used this kind of standard white Metro tiles that you see throughout. We did a full new bathroom suite, a 3-piece suite, and we did large grey tiles in the bathroom. New back door, back porch, there was a load of damp works and then replastered. We did painting throughout, we did flooring throughout, which was a combo of lino and carpet. Clearly the refurb was quite large, but there was actually a couple of things that we were able to keep and save. And this included the windows, which were UPVC, good quality, the front door, the staircase, the roof, which only needed some minor flashing and repointing, and then the guttering, which literally just needed to be cleared. And that was pretty much it. This house is just a 2-bedroom house. Originally would have been 2 up, 2 down, and it's had an extension added over the years, hence the dreaded flat roof. But it's probably worth mentioning at this point in the video, as I think it'll be useful for me to explain that I actually tried to save £1,500 on this refurb by painting the property myself. Bad idea. I spent 2 full days driving up to the house and painting the house internally, but I wasn't actually able to finish it in the time frame I'd given myself, and I had to head home for other commitments. So after shamefully going back to my builder with my tail in between my legs and paying £800, meaning I only really saved half the cost, the builder kindly finished off the work and painted all of the woodwork in grey, and then the house was finished and ready for flooring. Now, although I felt silly thinking that I could do this myself in a short time frame, I quickly got over that feeling, learnt my lesson for future ones. I'll actually add some photos of the house here so you can see it. And we went for the standard white throughout, the whites and the greys, but I really think the dark grey skirting and the nice kitchen just add such a difference to most of the houses that are on the rental market. And before I move on to talk about the refinance and the figures with you, let's quickly talk about the rent. The property was rented out within just a couple of weeks of hitting the market, and it achieved 625, which was slightly higher than I'd initially anticipated. So the cash flow of the property actually looks like this. I'll add it onto the screen, and you can see that obviously pre-refinance, the cash flow was a lot better than post-refinance, quite a large difference there, but it is absolutely necessary in order to be able to release the capital tied up in the property and move it on to the next one. Now let's talk about the refinance process, as this was clearly bad timing as rates had started to rise in September 2022. Now, I tried getting a mortgage with the Mortgage Works, and scroll back the clocks, my first mortgage was with the Mortgage Works in 2019. But ever since then, they've been nothing but problems for me and for the clients that I've helped source properties for. They've had long time frames, unusual questions in the underwriting stage, a very strict criteria, which isn't always a bad thing. They've had down valuations, £0 valuations, as they clearly don't want to lend on some houses, and much, much more. But in hindsight, I am glad this mortgage didn't go through, as the rate was 5.79% from application in December 2022. And in fact, my new mortgage with Precise Mortgages was a much smoother process, and we locked in a 5.29% fixed rate as the mortgage market started to ease in January. Now, they did a full portfolio review. They looked at my buy-to-lets, they looked at the cash flow, they then valued the property, agreed to my predicted £95,000 end value, and then issued my mortgage offer. Once the offer was received, my solicitor reviewed the information and helped me complete it within just 2 weeks, and then the money was back in my account. Now, the 5.29% obviously isn't ideal, and in 2 years from now, I'll either be very grateful for locking in that rate if the rates continue to rise up, or I could regret it if the rates start to drop back down. But in my eyes, I was trying to de-risk the upcoming years by doing a 5-year fixed, and sometimes the devil you know is better than the one you don't, or whatever that saying is. And that is why I picked to stretch that rate out over 5 years, lock in that rate, and lock in what the cash flow is on that property. Given the fact I've refurbished it, I was hoping that the cash flow would stick fairly consistent, because in theory there should be a low amount of maintenance. Now over to the whiteboard, as this is the best part of any property review video. And the first thing you'll be able to see at the top there is the purchase price of this property, which was £54,000. Now, normally when I mention, a property is bought for £54,000, people are a bit concerned, and quite rightfully as well. It seems very cheap, and usually people then imagine bad area, high crime rates, and they worry that it won't rent and it won't refinance. And I completely get that. That is definitely a precaution I take whenever looking at lower value properties. But with this property, when I was going out to offer on it, I could see that there are other houses in the street, in the road, being listed at 75, 80, and just over 80,000 in that same road, yet they needed full refurbishment. So that gave me the confidence that, look, if I can negotiate this at a good deal for the owner, for myself, then I'm happy to move forward. I'm happy to purchase this property. I know the demand in this area. I know roughly the rent I'm going to get, and therefore I'm happy to proceed forward. So with this property, I've bought off of the owner before. He knows that I can move quickly. I'm a man of my word, and therefore he was happy to sell to me at a price that worked for him, and obviously a price that worked for me given the amount of refurb that was required. So purchase price, 54,000. Solicitors and stamp duty, so SDLT, standing for stamp duty land tax, totaling 2,496. Now, I do get a very good rate for solicitors if you're wondering why that price is quite low. So 2,496 for that, survey 550, the refurb 2,4349. So £24,000 on a refurb, which again, a lot of people often pick me up and say, look, Justin, why is that such a high refurb cost? Why have you done so much there? And the truth really is just that we had to do a lot of work for the house. And if I think the figures work, then I'm going to try and increase the longevity of that property in my portfolio. Rather than going in and just spending, £5,000 or £8,000, but leaving future maintenance, I'd rather go in, get everything and all the necessaries done. If you remember from earlier in the video, I've literally gone in and done everything. We've stripped that whole house out. New kitchens, new bathrooms, a full rewire, new consumer unit, new plumbing, new boiler, etc., etc. And therefore, I know this property, hopefully for the next 5 years or 10 years, will be incredibly low maintenance. And I've managed to factor this in to my costs. So £24,000 in refurb, the holding and refinance costs coming in at £1,120. What I mean by this is that what a lot of people forget is that you're going to have to refinance this property. That's going to cost you in solicitor's costs or application fees for a mortgage company. You need to factor that in. Not only that, but when you're holding the property, when you're doing the refurb, that you've got to pay council tax, heating bills, and that will add up depending obviously on how long your refurb takes. So that came in at just over obviously £1,100, and my total cash in, because I purchased this deal cash, no mortgage, no bridging, the total amount of money required for this deal was £82,515. So I'm £82,500 in, And then on the refinance, I got this property valued at £95,000. Exactly what I predicted, what I'd hoped for. Was really pleased to get that confirmed with Precise. And then obviously they released 75% of that through a buy-to-let mortgage. So 75% coming out, and that means that 25% stayed in the property as my new deposit. And really that is equity that I have made through increasing the value of the property. So I'm leaving in equity that I've made as the new deposit. And this £71,000, if you were actually purchased a property previously and you'd bought it using bridging or a mortgage, well, this would now go to repay your old debt, because this is being released from the house and it's now going to be used to repay old debt, and then anything left over would go into your bank account. But as I had bought this all cash, all of this money straight back out into my bank account, ready to move on and purchase the next property. So with the total cash amount going in being £82,515 and me being able to release £71,250, this means I bought a house for £11,265. And I've now bought a 2-bedroom terraced property that's going to remain in my portfolio until I decide, and probably remain in there for a long time, paying me cash flow each month. And I bought it and only paid £11,265 for it. Get in, I'll add that one to the portfolio and on to the next. I'm actually in the process of buying 2 more properties, and I can't wait to do more of these videos and share more of this process with you. Thank you for watching, and until then, I'll see you next week.